Hi, this is Lorraine, and I've been guided to create another video. If you'll give me a minute to clear, center, and balance my energy, we'll get started. There's one main topic I wanted to speak of this evening, but also a couple other lesser items. The main topic is the sun-grazing comet, the Great Comet, I guess they're calling it, C2026 V1 maps. And so I had two visions this week, and I couldn't really figure out how to integrate them into all the other information that was coming in, if those visions were meant to be personal messages or global messages. But right before I started the video, a very clear message came through. So that is going to be the focus of the video, but there is, and I will put timestamps, so please use the timestamps to navigate the video as you would like. And please feel free to ask questions. I'm happy to respond with my own perspective, my own intuitive knowing as any questions come in. But as this topic of this sun-grazing comet came in, I didn't really focus on it too much, because what was coming in was consciousness and perspective. That was coming in very, very strong. Our shift in consciousness, our shift in perspective, and that felt like a priority to me. But this week, with those two visions, it became clear that I should discuss the sun-grazing comet. So all of these objects coming in have a purpose. Okay, so 3i Atlas that came in, we've discovered or saw or became aware of July 1st, 2025, is the primer, the terraformer, the greeter. It's meant to clear our planet. It's meant to be that first introduction into this galactic community. It's also here to heal our planet. It's engaging and interacting with our sun to help heal, clear, and prepare our planet for the expanded level of consciousness, for what the esoteric community would call the 5D. So 3i Atlas is very important in its role in instigating or beginning this transition from a grounded material plane or 3D perspective. Because we've been going through this transition for a very long time, but it's 3i Atlas that triggered that intergalactic first contact perspective and opened us up to it. C2025 V1 Borisov, which we became aware of November 2nd, 2025, its trajectory was to come between 3i Atlas and Earth, and the message that came in very strong was that it was trying to block any interaction between 3i Atlas and Earth, which was truly an exercise in futility, because the technology embedded in 3i Atlas with that AI driven, I'm going to say ship. I haven't used that term before because people call 3i Atlas a comet or an object, and they don't want to define it as anything else. But I feel with every fiber of my being that 3i Atlas is a technological vehicle ran by what we would define as an artificial intelligence. Again, this artificial intelligence is exponentially beyond anything we can conceive of, and what it is capable of is beyond any of our technology. So when that C2025 V1 Borisov was attempting to block any interaction between Earth and 3i Atlas, 3i Atlas just got rid of it. It was whatever it did to disintegrate or mitigate it. It was very simple. It was never a threat to what 3i Atlas's objective was. Then we have C2014 UN 271 Bernardinelli-Bernstein, which was discovered October of 2014. That is the cosmic sweeper, and all the energy or remnants that 3i Atlas is removing from our world with its engagement with the sun and with Mother Earth. Bernardinelli-Bernstein is picking up. It's the cosmic sweeper. It's picking up those remnants, and it will be moving it away from our world into a different place. And that is, you can look at it as literal or metaphoric, but that's its intention. It's removing what's left, what 3i Atlas does not remove from this world with its engagement with the sun and Mother Earth. Bernardinelli-Bernstein will be taking away. And just as a reminder, what came through very strong was that 3i Atlas, that anti-tail, whether it's coming towards the sun or moving away from the sun, that tail that is pointing towards the sun is projecting what was described to me as small microscopic AI technologies that are attached to particles, and they are being moved through the sun to the earth, and it's that technology that is coming to this world to clear planet Earth, heal planet Earth, and prepare it for this transition. So that's the terraforming component of 3i Atlas's presence. The primer is just, it's the first thing to come in for us to visually see, as well as to facilitate change with this AI technology. Then there's Asteroid 2025 PN7, which was discovered August 29th, 2025, and that was described as a quasi-moon. It's been here for 60 years. It's been a satellite for Earth for 60 years, and will be for about another 60 years. What came through very strong for this Asteroid 2025 PN7 was that it is a staging area and an observation port. And so these beings that are coming in for first contact, to introduce themselves to Earth and to help us step forward into this galactic community, they are using this asteroid as a platform. There is a trans-dimensional gateway there to transition us from this place here around Earth to a meeting area to discuss the transition of Earth. So there are ambassadors that are meeting in this area to discuss what has happened, what is happening, and what will happen. They also use this space to observe what's going on Earth, because there are interventions being put in place. CERN is one of the places of concern where there are already beings from other worlds intervening to prevent any type of catastrophic or cataclysmic event from happening. But that is something that's not in the forefront. It's in the background. It's hidden because it's necessary right now to protect Mother Earth and this world, but we are not yet ready for that formal introduction. But what's happening on the Asteroid 2025 PN7 is preparatory work for that first contact. And so I have other videos where I have talked about this, and I will put them in the description. But I don't want to review all that information. But 2025 PN7 is very important. It's an observatory as well as a gateway for ambassadorial discussions. Nobody's allowed to go to this place without an invitation, meaning Earth beings, anybody, if you submit to the secret space program, any beings or any people who have access to technology that might get them there are not allowed to approach. This is very strict. This is a space that, although this asteroid is very small, it's a transdimensional space. So once you get within that space, it's expanded, it's huge, it's massive. And I've had visions of that, like I discussed it in previous videos, but I don't want to get into that discussion or get into what that looks like right now. The next thing was the Great Comet C2026 A1 maps. It was, I've also heard it, I read an article, they called it the sun grazing comet. It's supposed to be arriving or hitting perihelion at on April 4th. And so when this information first came in, I was like, great, there's a big comet coming. It's going to come close to the sun. It's not going to do anything. I could feel in my body there was no urgency, there was no anxiety, there was no concern. It was just something that was happening, something that we were going to experience. And someone had made a comment about it, which I read and I responded to. And so I felt like I should sit with this a bit more. And really nothing came in until yesterday morning. And what came in was I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden I had a vision of just stationary stars, and then this round white object just came across the screen moving west to east. And my eyes, the back of my eyelids was like the movie screen. So it wasn't like in my mind's eye, it wasn't a physical manifestation, but it was very clear, very, very clear vision. And I found this graphic, I've used it for other things, but and I'll put it in picture so you can see it better, but it really truly demonstrated very much. See that big white thing that went across? It's exactly what it looked like. It just looked like a white dot, a big white dot, much bigger than all the other stars, just moved right across the scene in space. It looked like stars, stationary stars in space, with this one white object just moving across. And it was so clear, I was like, very interesting. Literally, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I opened my eyes and I did something really quick and I closed my eyes again, and then the same scene went through, exactly the same scene. So I'm like, well, that means I probably need to talk about this. And so this morning I just asked, the divine, I said, what am I supposed to say about this? Because all week I haven't gotten information about it. And so I sat quietly and I just asked, and typically information just comes in. I don't have to like reach out to it. And honestly, I don't like to reach out to it because I feel like whatever is meant to come in needs to come in naturally, and I know it's meant to be shared. But this morning I sat with that and I heard a man's voice say, it will bring a cataclysmic event. And I was like, oh, great. And then what came in very clear is this whole thing on perspective, right? What is a cataclysmic event? So those of us who are open to change and are ready for the transition, I'm excited about it. I'm happy. I'm ready. I'm looking around the world. There's a lot of things that are very bad happening, very upsetting happening, that I would like to move through at a faster rate. I'm ready, right? I'm ready for things to change. And so I'm open to change. So anything that comes in to create that change, I'm okay with. But somebody who's trying to hold on to old ways, who's trying to maintain the status quo, and most of the time, those are the people who are in control, right? They like being in control. They like having the power, right? They get to do whatever they want, because they have what it takes to be able to do whatever they want. So for those people, something coming in to change the status quo could be perceived as cataclysmic. And that was the very clear message. For people who are resisting change, what's going to happen will appear to be cataclysmic. For those who are open to change and are ready for change, it'll be a blessing. So I had two visions. I had that vision of the stars with that object moving across the star, and I have to say it has to be the Great Comet, C2026 V1 maps. I'm sure that's what I was envisioning. It was moving gradually. It was just moving calmly across the vision, across the screen, across the scene, and again, and like 3i Atlas, the message that came in was gentle, slow movements. Gentle, slow movements. So this process of first contact is going to be something that is very gentle and slow. Nothing aggressive, nothing startling is going to happen, because we're trying to make this transition as smooth and and I'm going to say gentle again as possible, but as smooth and calm, so that people can be open to it without fear, or with as little fear or anxiety as possible. Because we are moving into first contact, absolutely, and nothing will stop it. And now all the energy and all the forces that are needed are coming in to support this transition. Return to Earth. The message, return to Earth. All the beings that were told in 2020 that they must stay away because Earth must go through this transition. And so I interpreted that as tribulation, as the Bible, Revelation. The book of Revelation in the Bible calls this time of upheaval tribulation. So during this time from March until present was, I believe, a tribulation period. All these beings were told to stay away. They can't intervene because we must go through this. We must go through this change. We must work through this process. And this process of tribulation was a time of divergence also. So we see even greater polarity through these last 6 years, right? So the society, humanity, has clearly divided, and that was intentional. And that division is transcending humanity, and humanity that must repeat the cycle at the root. There's a lot of stuff going on, but at the root, that was what tribulation was determining. And that is what people decided individually with their thoughts, actions, words, and intentions. They determined whether they were transcending or whether they were going to repeat the cycle at the very root, at the foundation. So give me a minute. So now in this time, all of these beings who were told to stay at bay are being told they can return to Earth. And so now we have all these objects. Well, what was really important that came in was all these objects: 3i Atlas, C2025 V1 Borisov, C214 Bernardinelli-Bernstein, the Asteroid that's been here for 60 years, but somebody just noticed. Like, these objects have been intentionally kept out of our periphery. They've intentionally been kept out of our view. And it is these amateur, and that's a term I use loosely, astronomers, astrophotographers, they found this and they showed it to us. And that's why I said this process where these agencies, these large agencies with many millions, maybe billions of dollars to spend on this research, didn't say anything. It was these amateurs, and again, a term I use loosely, who introduced us to these objects and gave us the information that we needed. And I feel that was so important in this transition, and they still are giving us the information that we need and that we want. And we should value and honor that information, and value and honor their work. The Great Comet was discovered on January 13th by 4 amateur astronomers I put it in my journal, and I didn't put it in my notes. Discovered January 13th by 4 amateur astronomers with a remotely operated telescope in the Atacama Desert. So, now it's these amateur astronomers who are setting the standard, to be honest. That's how I feel. I feel it so deeply. They're setting the standard of integrity and work. And so what I wanted to say was, what I wanted to add was, I have that vision of the object, and I believe that was the Great Comet, the sun-grazing comet, moving across the screen, moving west to east. And then the second vision I had, third vision, so I had that vision twice. And the third vision was actually kind of funny. I closed my eyes and I saw all these red bags, sacks. They look like Santa's sack that he carries on his back when he's going down the chimney, and it had a white edge, white trim around the top. It was about 1 inch, and there were a bunch of different bags. I just did a very simple drawing of them, but there were a bunch of them, and they were different sizes. And I walked out of my bedroom and I looked, and they were in the kitchen. There's a whole bunch of them in the kitchen, and I was like, I can't get into the kitchen. They're blocking my way. I was so irritated. It was actually kind of funny. And then I thought to myself, why are you irritated? And I'm like, wow, those look like, and I couldn't figure out, I'm like, why are there red bags in my kitchen? And they look like there were boxes inside of them, even though I couldn't see what was in the bags. You can see the shape of the things in the bags, right? The items in the bags, and they look like boxes, and they look like gifts. So I'm like thinking to myself, wow, maybe I'm going to be rewarded. Maybe I'll have some abundance coming into my life for all the work I've done, the commitment to my path and purpose. Maybe something good is coming in, right? And so I felt like that was a very personal message, so I wasn't going to share it. But right before I started this video, I confirmed the date that the Great Comet's supposed to hit perihelion, and it's April 4th, which is the day after my birthday. My birthday is April 3rd. And so I thought to myself, that was Santa's satchel, had gifts in it. It had gifts for us. It wasn't for me, it's for us. That was the strong message that came in. There's nothing in my body that says this is going to be anything bad. It's a cataclysmic event that is going to bring us gifts. Okay, it's going to bring us gifts. I feel that so strongly, and I was so happy. And I just feel like a real lightness in my heart right now, and I just feel that so strong. It's going to bring gifts. But again, it's all about perspective. So for transcending humanity, for those of us that are so happy about this change and we're ready for this change, it's going to be a gift. But for somebody who's perceiving it as a threat to their power, their control, it's going to be perceived as a cataclysmic event for them. Also, divine timing is very important. So rarely does something happen on the exact day. It's an energetic shift. It's going to bring an energetic shift that will bring us gifts in abundance. Just the same way when 3i Atlas came by, it didn't really do anything immediately that we can see. I can feel the change in my body. I can see the change in behavior of people around us, of what it's doing. It's the catalyst that's creating the change. This great comet will be another catalyst. And these two objects are meant to come in. They're meant to create the change. They're meant to support us. They're meant to help us in this transition. This is all about preparing Mother Earth, our planet, our world, and humanity for first contact. Everything's working together. And that was the most important thing that's come through. Or the most important things that have come through. So just to recap, I do feel like a lot of the information with all these objects that have come through from 3i Atlas down to the Great Comet were kept from us, and I feel like it's the amateur astronomers or amateur hobbyists or passionate people who love the stars and love astronomy, astrophotography, the people who love what they do, that have brought us the greatest information to help us move forward in this transition. And actually the word catapult, it's helping us catapult forward in this transition. And knowing that the next thing to come through will be a gift for us, which is the Great Comet. Okay, give me a second. Let me see if then anything else comes in. All right, that's it. Thank you.